Welcome to the Way of Biohacking. This is Dr. Tay and...
Hi, I'm Linda, Nutritionist Yogini. What's up, what's up?
Hello everyone, wellness intern Nikki.
Well, technically, you're not an intern anymore. You're getting paid.
That's right.
In grass-fed
Wellness
beef.
employee.
In grass-fed beef, right?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been treating me well.
What did you cook so far with it?
The other day I made a chuck roast. Like, it was a big log of meat, and I just put it in my air fryer for like an hour, and it was like perfect, like medium, pink, juicy, delicious. Lasted me like 2 days.
Nice.
It was great.
Nice. All right. Maybe you want to make a TikTok clip in the future and like show everybody what you're making.
Okay.
All right. So today's topic is we're going to talk about relationships, and there is multiple relationship. One, the one we have with ourselves, and people have with their parent or guardian, their friends, their community, and with the rest of the world. And I want to start off with, the importance of having a supporting relationship, right? And I'll start. So I've been married for over 10 years. I have a very supporting relationship from my wife. She supports everything that I do. We're good friends, and we're both parents, and we try to support each other, and I support her in her home, and she supports me in my business, and I also try to help out in the home, and she tries to help me in my business. So it's a very nurturing relationship, and wherever we fall short, and that's where we try to have each other's back. That's one relationship I would like to talk about, and the importance of how to avoid bad relationships, right? How to identify, bad relationship versus good relationships, and how to stay away from toxic people. All right. Linda, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I've been on this journey of developing a healthier relationship with myself for probably solidly the last 3 years.
Okay.
And I had to learn it the hard way. Whenever I felt lonely, I thought I need to be in a romantic relationship, when really I needed to understand myself better so that I could be with myself better. And that really cured my loneliness or any type of insecurity I was feeling. It was really, I had to build a better relationship with myself as opposed to finding answers in other people.
That's really cool. What about you, Nikki? What can you add on to this?
Well, building a relationship with myself is something that I can really relate to at the moment. I left pretty much everybody that I know, and I came to a place to go to school where I know nobody. I didn't come with any friends or anything like that. My parents are at home. I'm virtually alone right now. So to adjust, I kind of took a lot of time to kind of dig deep and ground myself. I did I would go for long walks on the beach, and I would kind of meditate, and I would read, and I would really kind of almost talk to myself and ground myself, and so I wouldn't kind of have like a panic attack. So I've been building up a stronger relationship with myself and reminding myself why I'm here, not to feel lonely, because I'm here for my education and to make myself better. I'm not here to make relationships,
I like what Linda said, that she learned how to be better with herself. One of my meditation teachers used to tell me that people have a hole in their heart, and it's a black hole. Whatever you put in there cannot be filled unless you choose to stop being a black hole, which fundamentally means that a lot of people seek out relationships, and they seek love from other people and say, you need to give me A, B, and C, D, E, F, G, and the list goes on and on and on. When they don't get that from them, they seek elsewhere. And predominantly what my meditation teacher was telling me was that if you cultivate enough love for yourself and is overflowing, you have the ability to share that, and that person is ready for a relationship. Whereas if they have a huge hole in their heart and they're constantly looking things to fill up that hole, but it can never be satisfied.
I agree and resonate with that a lot. My meditation and yoga teacher uses a cup metaphor a lot.
Okay.
And you can't fill someone else's cup when your own cup is empty. So really you have to learn ways on how to fill your own cup before you can share from your own overflowing cup.
And I think, especially for younger people, if they don't know how to, spend time with themselves, or they're always looking out to hang out with their friends, and they usually get caught up in, bad drinking culture and stuff like that. I found myself doing that when I was in college. I just hated being by myself, and I didn't really like the fact that I had to eat by myself. So I would always contact friends, and so I wouldn't be alone. And like looking back, I wish I took that time to really develop myself. But I guess I wasn't really mature enough to understand that. So I think people should be told this at an early age, like, so that this can be passed on.
I totally agree. And we grow up in a society where we're so used to so much stimulation that when you do start spending time alone or by yourself or with less stimulation, not like blaring music, no toxins in your body, it can be very jarring. And it can be very difficult to just face your own shadows alone.
Yeah, I think that's really great. Also, like for example, last night, it was really warm down here, so I went to the beach by myself, and I caught the sunset. I watched the sunset, and I just kind of sat on a bench. There's like benches on the top of the beach. I sat on the bench for like maybe an hour, and I just kind of reflected on how I got to this point in my life and where other people are and things like that. I just kind of looked back. And I think that's a part of building a relationship with myself.
Recently, I got acquainted with my good friend Greg. I've known since acupuncture school. And him and I are meeting on every Mondays. And this guy and I, we're such clowns when we're together. But, we've had our businesses together in the past. It didn't work out. And he's showing up very, very differently. And I think part of that relationship, there was a lot of forgiveness for himself and me. And one thing I chose not to do as his friend is that I didn't give up being his friend. And I think looking back, him and I began to appreciate each other like in a very deep way. And I think that's good to have. I have a great relationship with my friend Giuliano Mole. I guess now I'm developing a relationship with Linda, you, and I think these are very, very healthy relationships because with Linda and you, we have so many things in common in terms of like our lifestyle. We like to practice yoga. We like to eat healthy, and we talk about healthy things, and we're working together towards these things. I think if people are in school, like yourself, Nikki, you should find people with similar interests and continue to meet these people. And I think if people are focused on having fun and drugs because they come from a traumatic experience from home and stuff like that, and I think those kids will gravitate more towards like partying, whereas kids who are really focused and driven, they'll find those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been absolutely laser focused, and it's something that I've kind of not dreamt about, but I've wanted to do for a while. Is I've just wanted to go away and just focus. Like on my downtime, all I'll do is listen to podcasts on health and fitness, and on my downtime, I'm in the middle of reading a few books. Like I'm just constantly trying to learn here, and it's kind of such a fulfilling experience. Is that I'm always trying to kind of figure out new things, and I'm not wasting my time. And I've been really enjoying it, and I've been had to have my diet really good where I like it, because I can control everything that I eat. Yeah. Now, and I've been really enjoying it.
Nice. I like how you're creating a practice of self-cultivation when you're away in college. That is definitely a level of maturity that most college students have yet to reach. I like how Tay brought up work relationships, just because a lot of the times we spend more time with people we work with than possibly the people we live at home with. And then I'm going to jump into family relationships. Relationships that you're born into, that you really don't have that much control over. I am a very typical millennial. I lived on my own for the past decade, and I realized, it's not as sustainable as I thought it'd be. So I moved back home with my parents, and now I am an adult reestablishing my relationships with my parents and living with my parents as an adult versus as a child. And I notice how, especially with my dad, our relationship, I'm very much the princess. And even to this day, sometimes when he says something that ticks me off or annoys me, the way I answer is so bratty. And I'm like, where does this come from? Am I still 6 years old? And this is a relationship I'm trying to change. I'm trying to evolve from that and really being able to have a more mature relationship with my father.
Like, my parents, they always saw me as a kid, and now I'm 41 years old. And to my mom and dad, I have a very hard time communicating with them because, one, they don't speak English, and my English speaking ability, like at this level, came as an adult. But when I talk Korean, I'm back to like 7 years old, 8 years old. I could say, I want to eat this, that. I can't talk politics the way that I lack the Korean vocabulary to speak religion, finance, all of these, like philosophy, because I was never educated in Korea. So, like, to them, sometimes I want to talk about like deeper topics and make an effort to. And then my dad loses interest real quick, and he's like, "You're just a kid,
Yep.
Because he can't speak English, and he can't understand it, So there's like a language barrier. But they see me how I live my life, and I guess that's the communication that I have with them, and kind of like sucks because I can't develop that like verbal relationship. But over and all, I try to make them proud of me, and I think they are, so I'm very happy about that.
I like how you mentioned verbal relationships. I think there's this one scene in Pulp Fiction where they talk about the best relationship is when you could be silent together. And I found that so powerful, and I was like, when you could sit next to someone and not have the urge to just fill the silence, I think that's a sign of you're very comfortable with that person and there's a solid bond that y'all have together.
Yeah, I like that. There's certain friends where when we're not talking and we're just sitting and it's quiet, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. And I've never actually thought about it like that. It's very interesting.
I think this is the third time Pulp Fiction was mentioned during this week.
Really?
For me. I think it was a luncheon. I had a quarter pounder with cheese, and I'm like, Royale with cheese. And most people didn't get that. But yeah, Pulp Fiction's Tarantino. He's got like some great lines and monologues that has a lot of deep meanings and stuff like that. All right, next, has anyone been watching? What is that? Cobra Kai?
Yeah, I watched the new season.
You watched the new season, so you're caught up? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone listening in, watching the show, will not be spoilers in this episode, okay? So no spoilers here. You guys can continue to listen. We'll be providing no spoilers. Nikki, have you watched The Airbender, The Last Airbender?
No, but you guys talk about it all the time, and I've said that I was going to start it, I will start it. I watched it when I was little when it came out, but I don't really remember anything.
All right,
that's your next self-cultivation project.
Okay, I will. I've been looking for a new show.
Okay, so I think to share a common theme, without talking about the characters in both shows, because we're trying to talk about it with no spoilers, but at the same time talking to Nikki and Linda about these two shows that they have in common denominators. There is a bad guy in the beginning of the show that ends up being a good guy, and that arc is, I think, like very, very powerful, not just in The Last Airbender, but also in Cobra Kai. How people have this preconceived notion of what their role in society should be, and they try to be the best doing that role, and they don't know that what they're doing is actually hurting somebody. And upon realization, that, you know, it doesn't serve themselves or the other person, and the only thing they can do is turn good. And I find that very, very good to watch, because it allows for self forgiveness. Yeah. And I think forgiveness is a very powerful thing that you can do to yourself. Like, I forgive myself for being bullied as a kid. I forgive myself for the other bully. And I think that allows a lot of transformation to take place.
I like how you mentioned forgiveness. One of the meditations that my mentor teaches the most is the forgiveness practice. And it's a very powerful practice that if you have a partner or a friend that's open to it, being able to sit with each other eye to eye, and similar to what you just say, being able to forgive yourself and forgive the person in front of you.
Yeah.
But you could still practice this forgiveness meditation without the other person there. That person doesn't have to be here with you physically or physically on this planet.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is being able to shift your own mindset on the relationship that you perceive that you had with that other person.
Yes. I have a lot of people. I had one patient where, without jumping into too much details because it will identify this person, but this person had to forgive a person that was dead, and my patient had a hard time understanding that. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, go to the tombstone and say, I forgive you for A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you're not really forgiving the other person, you're telling yourself that you forgive this person, and that in itself is very, very powerful, and that you're able to actually move on, because until you forgive them, you're harboring this like negative emotions, and you know, you're carrying this with you all the time. And by letting it go, you're no longer hurting yourself in the process. Right.
Now that's really interesting, because something that happened to me was I had to forgive some people, and what it took for me to forgive them was actually my neck surgery. I remember coming out of that, I was feeling so joyful and happy that I was okay, that I just kind of didn't forget, but I just didn't really care about things that people did to me in the past, like certain people, certain things, certain relationships that didn't work out. I just completely forgave those people. It's like whatever. I'm just kind of happy things played out with my neck the way that they did. So I think something kind of traumatic happening to me gave me a new perspective on those past events, and I was able to forgive those people.
For me, was when my daughter was born at the hospital. I gotta say, like, when you're there and your wife is giving birth, and like and I had a cup of coffee right before it, so like, you know, the anxiety was amplified like 25 times, and all I could think was, I want the baby to be healthy. I want the baby to be safe. I want the baby to be safe. I want the baby to be safe. Then when the baby was born, I see my baby, and then they're stitching my wife up, and all I could think was, I pray that my wife is safe. I pray that my wife is safe. And all this anxiety that I had, and once it was complete, we come out of there, and I'm sitting there all by myself, and then you're just like blank, like all these thoughts rushing to your head. Then they finally give you the baby. You're like, oh, this is nice. And I think the best scene that I can describe it is in Bad Boys, when these guys somehow in one of the scenes, like the clouds are moving really fast on top of their heads, but they're standing still. Like, I think that's what it felt like holding my baby for the first time. Like, I'm now transitioning from like a married man to a father, and the responsibility and the thoughts rushing to my head. I got to do everything in my power to make sure that this vulnerable baby is going to be, you know, grow up and all this thing. And then I felt this tremendous amount of love for this baby. And then a few hours later, I see my parents. And then my dad is like, you know, what you felt when you were holding the baby is what I felt for you. And yeah, I just forgave my dad for growing up literally Korean, if anyone knows what that means. Yeah, I just forgave my dad for a multitude of things. And I now have a very relationship with my dad because of it. I mean, my mom was always nice and whatever, but my dad, you know, Korean, hard school of knocks, you know. And I think forgiveness and love and all that, it's like just too many emotions all at once. And I think that for me was very, very, very powerful.
Quick thing about forgiveness meditation practice, though, is that you don't start with the big ones.
Okay.
It's because it's a practice, and it's very hard to face.
Yeah.
Big ones like your father or your mother, or things that carry a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
So usually starting small, like that person that cut you off in traffic, that person that's standing in front of you in line at the store. This is an active thing that you have to keep working on. Like, I forgive you for cutting me off in traffic. I forgive myself for overreacting. Working small day by day and continuing to practice, and then eventually working to the big ones, such as relationships with your parents or a loved one.
Okay. Next part of relationship. There's two things I want to cover, and I got to keep a good eye on the time. Is teacher relationship, teacher, mentor, and mentee, right? And I think from the mentor's perspective, it's very important to guide people towards the right direction, so you're not misguiding them. And from the mentee perspective, I think I still have a hard time, because when I was, you know, a mentee from my teachers, I did above and beyond. And I see the upcoming generation, they don't do that, right? They don't do that. So I guess I expect the new generation that's up and coming to do what I did, but they don't do that, right? So there's part of like having less expectations on them, and also I guess it's a lot about communication, right? So like I think there's a famous saying from Karate Kid, the original movie. Mr. Miyagi tells Daniel LaRusso's character, there are no bad students, only bad teachers. Right. So whatever the teachers say, the student is going to go do. So in Cobra Kai, it's like hit first, strike hard, and no mercy. Right. So when these kids fight, that's what they do, because that's what they were taught. And a good teacher should, you know, be wary of this. There's always should be a balancing part. Linda, you've had multitude of mentors that you follow, like Tai Chi teacher for 20 years.
20-something years, yeah.
20-something years. Your yoga teacher that you've cultivated a relationship. Like, what was that like?
So I have a different relationship with every teacher I have. My most recent, my mentor, Kadri, he is a meditation master. He teaches handstand workshops. Yeah. And right now I assist him in 200-hour yoga teacher trainings. The first time I took a 200-hour yoga teacher training with him, I was simply mesmerized by him. The way he's able to captivate everyone's attention in the room, the way he's able to understand subtle energies, and really take attention of the space and build a safe space for people to have emotional releases and explore yoga was just so amazing. So I was like, I need to learn more from this man. So I started doing one-on-one sessions with him and deepening my own meditation practice. And again, he was just this teacher, someone I looked up to all the time. Yep. And then during my last trip to Costa Rica, where I assisted him, I saw the human side of him. Yes, I looked up to him, but on the working side of him, I saw that he lost his temper a lot, which I didn't see that when he was simply my teacher. But now working with him is a totally different relationship. So I love how our relationship is evolving, and I'm continuing to learn from him, and I still aspire to be a lot of what he is like. And I think that's something I look for in teachers. Like my Tai Chi teacher, for example, I've known him for more than 20 years. Yeah. He used to be a videographer in like softcore porn. He used to be a drug addict, like things that you wouldn't look for in a teacher. Yeah. But at the same time, he is so happy. And he moves with so much grace in the world.
Okay.
And he has such an open mind. And these are just qualities that are, I think, again, very aspiring and very inspirational.
And I think that having mentor-ish relationships in general is super important. Like, for example, you two are both massive mentors of mine. You two and Tom are huge mentors of mine, huge influences. And I don't know if, say, I didn't have you three as mentors, I don't know where I would be. I don't know, as far as educational wise, I wouldn't be nearly as smart. I wouldn't be nearly as wise without that. So just having that mentor-ish relationship with you three has made me so much smarter and made me grow so much more.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the last couple of years has when I shifted from just being the student or the mentee to becoming the teacher and the mentor, and something that I'm continuously learning about and how to maintain these relationships in terms of keeping a clear differentiation between student and teacher. And especially in working with young kids, every word that comes out of my mouth could potentially leave a core memory or impression on them. So the way I carry myself around children is very different than when I'm with my friends or with my family. And I really try to lead by example and put my best foot forward because I think these children deserve the best.
I mean, I've had several teachers, and one thing I can say, I think I can definitely relate in regards to the teachers. You put them on such a high pedestal, right? Because they look to you like not average. They're more than that, and they're not your mom, they're not your dad, but you know, they have so much value. And I had some disappointments, but there was also forgiveness. And I gotta say, I've learned a lot from my teachers, especially Dr. J. I think without him, I don't think I would have been the practitioner that I am today. Dr. Wong, like, he didn't speak English, but like he endowed me with such like deep understanding of what it means to be a clinician, and to have a lot of energy just to do the things that you want to do. I think Master Lee, he didn't teach me a lot of different things, but he taught me principles and like create depth in my training. And I think those really things have kept me really grounded. I think what a lot of people that I recommend for people to do, especially if you're a teenager that I encounter, is that the parents, when they're young, they have them focus on so many different activities, right? For girls, it's like some sort of dance class, rhythmic, thing, and piano, singing lessons, swimming. Kids are exposed to so many different things. And as these kids transition to teenhood, right, you can't upkeep doing all that many different things, right? So what these kids ends up doing is they're still trying to find out what they like, right? But once they find it, I think this is where, in my opinion, and this is a personal opinion, I'm not saying like this is I know from research and all this stuff, is that parents are always making their kids choose, do you like it or not? Because everything has a cycle in regards to, in the beginning when you learn something new is very exciting, but then you get bored out of it, right? And it's about like, refining the love for it and getting back on it. And people simply just give up, and they never get a chance to reach 10,000 hours of what they try to do unless they find like a tremendous passion for it. So I think too many kids in teenage years that I encounter, they're doing too many things and not enough one focused thing, whether it's exercise or a sport that they play. And I really encourage kids, like, if you started playing basketball, right? Yeah, continue to play basketball and keep on playing basketball. And you're going to meet people that are going to be better than you, right? But that should not discourage you from stop playing basketball. It should continue to make you move forward. So there's a great movie, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Have you ever... Nikki, have you ever watched it?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've never heard of that, actually.
It's with this actor named Nick Nolte. It's based on a true story of this guy in college. He had it all. He had good grades. He had great athletics, and he gets into an accident, and he loses the ability to even stand and walk. And doctors tell him he can't walk. And that Nick Nolte character, who was his like mentor, comes to him when he's like in his darkest place in his room, where he's just laying in bed all day with medication because he's in so much pain. And Nick Nolte character is like, no, you have to get up for the love of the sport that you had once now. And he's kicking and screaming. And I think a lot of kids need that from their parents. Like, I know you don't want to, play basketball or whatever anymore, but recently I found out the parent allowed this person to give up, but the coach let him quit and waited, for him to quit. And when he quit, the coach talked him out of it. And I'm like, that's an amazing coach, because he allowed the kid to quit, but he also, reignited what he needed, right? And I think that's so lacking in, especially amongst teenagers these days.
And I think that's a great relationship to bring up also with your community. So you're talking about like a sports community.
Yeah.
And sports communities tend to have great camaraderie because you're practicing together, you're playing games together, you're suffering losses together, you're celebrating wins together. And these are different communities that we put ourselves in throughout our lives. Mm-hmm. And the thing with being a teenager is that you're part of this really strong community, and then you move on to the next stage of your life, college, or you go out to work. And then you put yourself in different communities, and then you have to start all over again. And I think that's a tough part also in terms of being able to start all over again, like kind of what Nikki is doing right now, and reestablishing new relationships, or deciding that you want to establish a strong relationship with yourself. And these are steps that you have to mindfully take, and be careful what communities you choose to partake in, what relationships you try to establish in your own life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great example because going back to mentorship, I'm now finding communities that I was involved with because of my mentor, because of you, Linda. You did yoga. You got me into yoga. I'm now involved with yoga here. And nice. I'm in that because of a mentor. So it's very interesting to see how that directly affected my future.
Yay, yoga!
Yay. All right, another part of relationship is I do want to talk about toxic relationship. I mean, what I identify as toxic people is there's no way to resolve this toxicity. It's like nuclear waste. Like, that's how toxic it is. Whether it's their language or their behavior, whatever the case is, if you find toxic people, you have to learn how to separate yourself from toxic people. And I think it's so important. And the old saying, one bad apple spoils the rest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people have love for toxic people because it could be their family. 2, it could be a friend in need. And when you have a hard time separating yourself from the toxic people, you can't help but to end up toxic yourself, right? And I've had numerous relationships that, I guess, like, not to go too much into detail, I had a toxic person in my life, and I let this go on for many, many, many years. And I think because of it, I allowed my tolerance for toxicity was very high, and I allowed a lot of toxic people. And then, later on, I had to teach myself how to stay away from toxic relationships. And I think once I got away from toxic people and toxic relationships, I think my life really started to turn around. And the beauty of it is that I get to meet beautiful people like Linda, Nikki, and more people. And the more I push away the toxic people around me, better people begin to show up in a different way. So that's my take on it.
This is something my Tantra Vinyasa teacher talks about a lot, is that you really have to learn how to release and let go in order to make room for new things in your life. And something I'm constantly working on as well. I've been in multiple toxic relationships, romantic and friendship.
Yeah.
And it's hard to let go because a lot of the times you go into these relationships with preconceived notions and you're carrying a lot of baggage, and then you let these patterns perpetuate. And then you end up in a similar relationship again. It's like, why does this keep happening to me?
Right.
And it's because it's some work that you probably haven't resolved on your own. And again, it takes a lot of diving into yourself and making sure that you have your own values and you're maintaining your own integrity in these relationships.
What about you, Nikki?
Well, it kind of reminds me of what I mentioned before, is that in order to kind of let go of the past toxicity, it took something to happen to me. Something had to happen to me in order for me to realize that. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that was the case, and I wish that I was able to realize that sooner, to be able to let go without something tragic happening to me. But that tragic thing had a lot of positive outcomes.
And some signs that you are in a toxic relationship, usually after you leave a conversation or spending time with that person, you're feeling extremely drained and tired. Those are some physical signs. And a lot of times there's this like a codependency. That's also another thing that comes up a lot in toxic relationships.
Codependency, wow. No wonder it seems very hard to get out of it, because it's a codependency. Okay. Well, I didn't see it that way. I want to reintroduce what we talked about, you and me, Linda, this morning. There's some sort of Mercury retrograde, right, happening right now, right?
Yes.
I think, like, when I first started hearing Mercury retrograde over and over and over, and I'm like, what the hell is this thing that people are talking about? What about Mercury? And like, whatever. And the more I heard about it, I'm like, I remember the intensity that I felt, like, emotionally, like, oh my God, it's midterms. No wonder is Mercury retrograde. And I think for the last, good year, I've no longer felt the Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
Right. But I've seen other people experience it very, very intensely, and then it was impacting me, but not that I was going through with it. And I was talking to you, maybe it's because I did all this personal development over the years, and I'm no longer getting affected by it, right?
Yeah, so right now I'm not an astrological expert, just a fan.
Okay.
I believe Mercury and Venus are both in retrograde right now.
Okay.
And what that means, very briefly, Mercury is the planet that usually affects communication.
Okay.
Venus is usually the planet that actually reflects relationships, which is what we're talking about today. So during this time period, when things are in retrograde, certain patterns may re-arise, or certain issues that have been unresolved in the past may come back. Like you might get a message from an ex, or like something that came up in the paperwork that wasn't resolved, and suddenly it's coming up again. So these are things that might resurface during retrograde times, especially if you haven't put in the work, if you haven't done your releasing or setting intentions. These are things that will resurface during this time period. And it's not always negative.
Right.
It just really depends on where you are in your life in terms of resolving your own issues.
Okay. What about you, Nikki? Are you going through like intense experiences right now, emotionally and all this stuff?
It's definitely been a big adjustment.
Okay.
Switching from home to here, it's been a massive adjustment, and it's definitely been causing a lot of mental turmoil. And like the first week, I would say I didn't really get a good night's sleep, but I'm sleeping now. And it was just, I had so much on my mind when I would go to sleep. My mind would just start racing, like, I'm so far from home, blah, blah, blah. But I've kind of gotten all that in check. But it definitely took some time to adjust. I really miss my family. I talk to them every day. But a big shift like this has definitely had an effect on my mental health. I do think I'm doing well, though. But it was tough at first. It was definitely tough at first. But I think I'm adjusted, I would say.
You've been there for about like 2-3 weeks now, right?
Yeah, I think it's been 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks.
When's your yoga class?
Mondays.
Morning or at night?
Monday nights.
Monday nights. Okay, that sounds cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, we definitely miss you on Friday mornings and stuff like that.
Miss you guys too.
Yeah, Linda had me do this like spinal decompression thing, and I was like, oh my god! And I look around, like, Nikki's supposed to be here.
Yeah, I missed the all the noises you would make when we would do yoga.
Linda was saying that. Do you hear Mo saying no?
Yeah, this morning we did a bunch of restorative poses. I was reflecting on what Nikki was saying last week, how doing longer holds tends to be more difficult, and that's something that came up for me when I've been practicing restorative yoga this past week. Just being able to maintain poses and really learn how to breathe through them. Again, it has a lot to do with your relationship with yourself. And being able to be with yourself physically and reminding yourself that it's okay, your physical body is here, and not get caught up in your thoughts, which is something you mentioned right now, Nikki, about being caught up in your thoughts in your head, and then really separating your mind and your body. And the practice of yoga is building that relationship where your mind and your body are integrated.
Yeah. I mean, I think today's topic really talks about, what is your relationship with yourself, like nutritionally, physically, mentally, and the people around you, and what give or take you have. Because if you look at a lot of personal development books, it talks about you becoming a powerful person by being a good person, not a bad person, right? And in, what is that? What Jordan Peterson tells people is that you got to be a monster, right? You have to be a monster compared to being harmless, because if you're harmless, there's no, real meaning to your life because you're harmless. But if you're a monster, right, that little thing that you do can damage people, but if you're well-mannered at the same time, then that's what it means to be cultured and to be a nice person. Because you can say F-bombs all day, but if you're that type of monster and you try to be nice to people, then you're being really tempered. And I think that development to be something like that, and I think that's why, like, martial artists who are like in the UFC, if they go to a restaurant, it's like, oh, may I please have this? That's what it means to be a super monster person that can really do damage, but they're being really nice about it. And I think in ancient times, like 400 or 500 years ago, they would call royalty your grace, because they're very dangerous people, but they say nice things and stuff like that. And I think there's a fundamental goal for your personal development. Like, you want to keep on doing martial arts so that you are a dangerous person walking around, and you want to be cultured enough so that you're not dangerous and you're not trying to show off that you know martial arts and stuff like that. Yeah. All right, anything that we want to add on to relationships today? No? All right. How's the tea? How do you feel right now with the tea?
Good. We took some decongestive tea right before this, and I feel good. I haven't coughed at all during this entire episode. Yeah.
I got to make more of this stuff. Yeah. All right. Stay tuned for more episodes. Hit that like button and subscribe, and please share with those people who are close to you and have good relationships with you and that might be interested in this type of stuff. And we look forward to you seeing next time.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.